This is the MOJO, the Meaning of Life and Business podcast, where life and business intersect. Hosted by Jennifer Glass, CEO of Business Growth Strategies International and BGSI Coaching. We are dedicated to your success. Hello and welcome to another episode of MOJO, the Meaning of Life and Business. One of the things that every single person, especially those people living here in the United States, and I guarantee you just about anywhere around the world, needs to know are a few dates. You need to know that your tax authority is going to be very impatient with you if you skip those dates. And if you happen to be a business owner, there are even more dates that may be important that you need to be paying attention to. And I have a really great guest on the show today who's going to help us break down what some of these dates are, why we need to be paying attention to these dates, why they matter in terms of where we are, and the things that we really need to be paying attention to as we really are moving forward in the conversation. But before I bring my guest on, let me tell you a little bit about him. With over 40 years of experience, Albert Corey is a seasoned financial strategist who's guided more than 35,000 families and entrepreneurs to financial success. As the creator of the innovative Profit Maximizer system, he specializes in helping business owners protect their assets, grow their profits, and build a predictable income. Albert's expertise has turned financial chaos into clarity for everyone from truck drivers to child actors. He's a firm believer that real success combines profit with passion, which is why he's not only a trusted business advisor, but also, interestingly enough, an avid Disney World pin trader. Albert, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Miss Jennifer. And it's a pleasure for meeting you at an event, at a virtual event a few weeks ago.
Absolutely. Likewise. Thank you. And I love that Disney pin trader. I'll just share it with you really quick. I keep this little Mickey Mouse sitting here on my desk. I've got a couple of pins also, but when it comes down to where we go, I'm just curious, before we kind of jump into things, how did you get into the Disney pin trading?
It sounds so crazy. So, I mean, I'm in Miami and we were going to Disney even a lot. So we were in the mall. We were in the mall and I saw a Disney store. They gave a whole bunch of discount. Oh, those pins look good. So I went in there and I realized people were trading. And the rest was history. I just started buying pins when we would go. I'm in my house office, but if you saw my wall in my office in Hialeah, Florida, I have a whole wall full of pins. I haven't really collected in a while because the quality of pins, weren't as good as they were, where the original pins were really good works of art where you could see the details. Very cool. Very cool. Right. I love seeing the details, like buying artwork. And the older the ones they are, the more detailed, that you can see all the lines. Like on Cinderella, you would see all the hair and lines and eyes and everything.
Yeah, and Cinderella is definitely one of those great Disney characters. She's my daughter's favorite princess. So when it comes down to that, definitely being in a position to see all of the fine details, artistic value, if you will, is so important. Yes. Thank you. And, let's kind of bring it back to a little bit more on the business side, but the details are obviously something that you are very big on, right? I mean, you are so clear in terms of the financials, in terms of taxes and things along those lines. And so the details really becomes super important in that realm. So I'm curious to know, in the beginning of the conversation, I said dates matter, right? Help us understand why dates matter so much.
Well, in simple terms, Miss Jennifer, that if you file a tax return, business returns I do on March 16th. Okay, so if you're an LLC, I'm sorry, they're due on March 15th. But if you file, and we've been e-filing since 1990. So if that file goes in, okay, on March 16th at 12:02, the IRS is charging you $400 a month. Think about it. Now, how can you avoid that? It's very simple. That's why I've come up with the data system for business success. The D is for dates. There's 4 dates every business owner needs to know. The first one, I know if you want me to go over them real quick.
Please, yes.
First one is an extension. Extension gives you time to send it in. We've always been telling our clients for almost 40 years that this needs to be done on January 8th. We just came up with January 8th because that's the first day that we open up for any year tax season. And you want to make sure it's the first of the year, like New Year's Day, right? Remember how we always have New Year's Day? What's the beginning of the year? You're going to remember it. So make sure you put it in the calendar, because business returns are due on March 16th if you don't file an extension. And the funny thing is, if you go to a real tax guy, they don't have time for you up until after March 16th. So if you go to somebody and they get it done and you got a real business going, Miss Jennifer, then they're not a real tax guy. They're not that busy. So I would run. Because
Right.
they're going to be so rushed that it's not going to be done right and perfect.
Thank you.
And then
So
the
let's
next
move on
date,
to the next date.
it's simple. Here's another crazy fact that most business owners don't know their numbers. And now on July 8th, okay, they don't have none of the stuff done for their tax year. Now, mind you, July 8th is now 16 months after the beginning of their previous year. Remember, taxes are paid in arrears, right? The next following year. Well, most business owners don't have any of the numbers done. So that's why the magic number is July 8th. So now you want to get all your papers together. You want to start gathering. If you're a company, if you don't have the bookkeeping done, you need to start gathering all your papers and getting it all done. The following date is August 8th. August 8th, August 1st, it doesn't matter, but it's early August. Okay, this is the time you have to call whoever's going to do your stuff, your book, whoever's going to do your tax return. Because 3 things are going to happen, Miss Jennifer. Either 1, the guy's got time for you. 2, he doesn't do your type of business anymore. Or 3, the office is closed. So that's why you got to call, because if he doesn't, if he's not going to do your business because he doesn't like to do business coaching anymore, and that's happened to a lot of my clients, or B, they're not around, you better start scrambling to find somebody else. And all business returns are due, no matter what, are on September 15th. And it's the same thing. So if you file after September 15th, the late charges start hitting you up. And part of increasing your profit with a stress is, why do you want to pay late fees to the IRS? That's like money going on. It's like poof. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to go poof and give money to the government for free? God bless you. It's one thing you got to give money to the government because you made a profit, but it's another thing giving them late fees. And that I've always against with my clients.
Absolutely. Who wants to give any late fees or extra money to the government?
For
Is
sure.
literally, it's like, even when you're overpaying them, you're
Why are
just setting
people
everything up and it's free interest to them, but you're not getting the value.
right? So why do you want to give them extra money for nothing?
Right. So we got those key dates in, which obviously we need to be paying attention to: the
Right.
January, August, all these different dates that you mentioned in there that become so important for us to really be paying attention to. And anyone who's listening as a business owner, make sure you go back, circle those dates in your calendar. So that way you know what needs to be done by
Can I make one
when.
more suggestion though? What I've
Please.
been teaching my clients, put it in your cell phone for reminders. Don't put it in your calendars. Right, Miss Jennifer? Because now the phone's going to go off ding, ding, ding. Do this,
Yes,
and this. It's even better than, sorry, it's even better than putting them in a, well, it is a count, but put them in your cell phone calendar to remind you.
absolutely. And again, it's just another way to make sure that that's really going to be there and keeping you reminded. I even, in addition to being on my phone, I will use
Regular
my
calendar?
I will use my Amazon unit. Just not going to actually say her name because she'll literally just start talking to
Okay.
me right now. But I will say, remind me on this day, remind me at this time,
Okay.
whatever, and set it as until I dismiss you. Keep reminding
Gotcha.
me. And so that's another way, just in case the phone doesn't ping you, that thing will drive you crazy.
Oh,
So
I think I didn't learn that one. Thank you.
absolutely. It's how do we all help each other? So
Right.
Albert, let me ask you, now that we got the dates done though, if we think about where we're going and trying to really make sure that we know our numbers, right? And one of the things I ask business owners as a business coach, I ask all the time, what are your numbers? And you and I are looking at very different numbers in the sense of what you're looking for and what I'm looking for, but it's still related in terms of
Sure.
the number. But
Okay.
I'm curious to know that when you're saying know the number, right? Are you saying you just need to know what your taxable income is? Are
No,
you
not at
saying
all.
it's understanding?
No. What know the numbers means in my world is what I'm trying to show you is make sure you know what you're always depositing, and make sure you know what all your expenses are. Now, once you put them together, we do the tax return, and then that's my job to see how much you got to pay the IRS or deduct here and there. But most small business owners, I'm telling you, a lot of them don't do their own, they don't do no bookkeeping. They don't understand any of that. I mean, a good percentages don't. Because I see this every day. That they don't want to pay for bookkeeping, you know. The biggest joke I will tell you is I got clients making $200,000. So I tell them, do you have a bookkeeper? No. And I tell them how much we charge, which is usually about $175, and they say it's too expensive. So what do? You can tell they're just scribbling stuff on a piece of paper. They're not going through their bank statements. You know, they don't know what they're spending. That's why I say you got to know your numbers. Because
Absolutely.
what's gonna happen is, and you should be doing this every month, because what's gonna happen is, okay, if you know you're doing well, okay, that's good. Now you can start putting money aside for a rainy day, for in case the winter comes, or you can start investing more in your business. But here's the biggest reason why, that you got to know the numbers so that if you're in a negative, you know what to cut back to get you back in the positive, to get you turned around. So if you're not doing your stuff and you don't know your numbers, you'll be out of business.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to add there, just in terms of knowing your numbers, you really need to understand what your margins are,
Oh yeah.
right? And you need to understand the difference between gross profit and net profit
Right.
really, really clearly. Because too many of us, we think, all right, so if I wanted to get a 30% profit, I take whatever that costs me and add 30% on top of that. And that is not your profit,
No.
right? That does not give you the right number. You need to actually take, there's a whole formula that you take, but
Right.
it's really based on
And
what you're looking to sell it at, and then deduct your profit, what you're looking to make from there.
right.
And that's how you start figuring out these numbers, just that you're clear while you're listening to this conversation, especially as prices just keep on going up. One of
Mhm.
the things that we know is right now, it doesn't matter what uh, situation we're dealing with. As of the day of this recording, inflationary pressures are still pretty high. Even though they're not crazy, they're still pretty high. And again, as of the day of this recording, it is before a lot of the tariffs are even really being seen for a lot of things that we may be dealing with. So just think about that in terms of your own business and how that may be playing out down the line. But Albert, let me kind of go back though to the numbers and in knowing really what you're looking at and whether you use a system like QuickBooks or FreshBooks or Zero or whatever, or you're just recording it in Excel or Google Sheets or whatever it may be. Um, for folks that don't want to be spending, as an example, that $175 to work with you, other than that, I mean, is there anything else that they can do to really be
Sure.
clear in terms of where they are?
Okay, it's simple. If you don't want to pay me, that's great. But you're literally, whether you pay me or somebody else, here's why you pay somebody. Because depending on how many transactions you do, you got to download all the bank statements, right? And now after you don't that bank, you have to go line by line and put them somewhere. I remember my mom in the old days, remember you have to put them in the old little ledger books. Now you don't have to do that. I guess you could still do it. I mean, I still have, I have one client who that's all she puts, gives me a ledger sheet that she does because she doesn't believe in any of the techno stuff. But, how much time does it take her to do that? But I'm not saying spend the money. You see, you got two choices. You can either, it's like, here's what I talk on stage about is QuickBooks says it takes it takes between 5 and 10 hours a month. So let's use 5 as the example, right? As a business coach, what would you say your average client makes an hour? 300 an hour?
I try and show my clients how to make 521, excuse me, $521 an hour.
Okay.
But yes.
So let's use 300. So it's a simple number.
Yep.
Right? So let's take, by the time you download all your bank statements, right? Every month, and then now you got to put them in to whether it's QuickBooks, whether you do it on Excel, take anything you want. By the time you download them and do it, it's going to be at least 3 hours. So if you're making 300 an hour, and this is QuickBooks telling you this, takes 5 hours. That's $1,500 of opportunity cost. So you can be working on your business or having those 5 hours. You said you got a child. Well, you can spend those 5 hours with your kid. Why do you want to be sitting there for, in our case, like $175? Why do you want to sit in there playing with your QuickBooks when you could have been playing hanging out with your family or making more money? See, the opportunity
Absolutely.
cost is way off. But small business owners just don't get that memo. So they'll think they'll do it themselves, which is fine. And most of the time, I'd say 50% who try to do it themselves, it's all wrong. And I see it all the time. And it's up to me to kind of fix it. And a lot of my old clients are spoiled because I'll make it work. But the day I'm not around or the day I want to make sure. You understand? If you go to a CPA or something, they're not going to fix it. It's what you give them is what you're going to get. So that's what, and also you want to know exactly what you're making. But most small business owners, at least 30%, don't even bother with that.
Right. Absolutely. So going back though to general tax planning.
Okay.
Right. When we're operating our business, one of the questions that very often comes up is, how do I operate my business in a way that is really going to be moving my business forward, keeping an eye on strategic tax planning to minimize my liability that I owe in taxes? Any kind of,
Sure, I'm going
again,
to
I
go
know that
back.
I'm not giving you a specific
No, I
kind of
can go
company or
exactly.
anything,
Goes
but
back to what did I just say? Know the numbers. I know I keep harping on that. You know why? Because if you know the numbers and you're making too much money, maybe it's time to go hire a coach. Maybe it's time to go to an event, or now you got way too much money, buy equipment, make it a tax deductible. That's why when you know the numbers, your tax liability is, you can do whatever you got to do to lower it. Whether you take a class, whether you buy equipment, whether you go to a seminar, you can always go spend out the profits. But you got to know how
absolutely,
much
as long as
profit you
everything
have.
is clear as a business expense, you can
Right,
do whatever you need
right.
there to do it.
Uh-huh.
Just be sure that it's legitimately a business expense. That would
Well,
be the
that's
biggest
why I'd
caveat.
say ask whoever's doing the return. I mean, there's a formula that I would always use to make that happen. That's the D in the data system, is it going to move your business forward? That's the rule the IRS will ask you. What does that mean? That means I'm going really crazy on this, but figured you can understand this. So if you're making too much money And what part of the country you live in? Let's use Walmart. I'm gonna use Walmart because everybody has a Walmart, right? And you got a little baby, and Walmart has diapers at a penny. I don't know. So you went and go spend $10,000 on buying diapers for the next year. Well, if you're a business coach, are those diapers going to move your business forward? Statistically, what's the answer? No.
No, right.
Right. Well, then it's not a deduction. But I can tell you deduction the other way, that I had a golf cart delivered. And then I asked the guy that, did you overpay the IRS? He goes, no, but my wife did. Can you call my wife? Well, because I did that, I made like 3,500 on it, but that made my golf cart delivery a deduction. Why? Because I use it as an advertising tool. So it's how you structure on what you do is whether it's a deduction. Obviously, you can't go overboard. Like I see people who come to my office, which I think is hilarious, or we do the income statement, that they make $150,000 and they have 45,000 in meals. Not about you, but I don't know any business person who's going to spend $40,000, a third on entertainment or business meals. Maybe, 10, 12, maybe 20, but not 45.
Right. It's got to be realistic in terms of what you're doing in the
Right,
business to make it worth it, that nobody is even going to be looking at that
right,
as, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense.
right,
Yes. And that's another reason why having a professional look at your numbers instead of you doing it on your own is
right.
always a good thing.
And I was at an event today, and you know what the IRS best friend is if you're a small business owner?
The
Their best
banks?
friend. It's called small business owners using TurboTax because they don't want to spend the money for somebody to do the return.
Okay.
And you know why I say that? You know why I say that, right? When's the last time TurboTax, you can ask questions. When's the last time TurboTax talked back to you? They
Right.
give me the never.
Yes. You just go
But
online or in the app and that's it.
right, pretty much. I mean, I haven't used, but that's the truth. So you need to pay somebody to do it. And I'll guarantee you, if you get the right person, you're gonna get more money back. In other words, what you give them in fees will outperform what you owe to the government. And there's less chances you're gonna get audited because you're just gonna put, like I said, you're gonna put, great example. You're gonna go and put 35,000 miles on your car. And you don't go nowhere, you work out of your house, but because it doesn't talk back to you.
Right. And again, one of the biggest reasons that people assume, and I know that I'm saying assume, and I'm purposely pointing that out, that doing it on your own is a safe bet. And you got to really be careful with that. So, Albert, let me kind of bring it back though to the overall planning then. And we said
Okay.
again, knowing your numbers, being really, really crystal clear. These are the numbers in my business. I now know when I have to file or reach out to my people. I know how much I am making and how much I'm spending. So, like you said, if there's anything that I need to offset as a legitimate business expense, that I can do that. Is there anything else other than the dates and the numbers that are so important in terms of overall tax
Sure.
planning?
Well, I don't know if it's really tax planning, but you got to know where you're going in life. What does that mean? If you're trying to buy a house, you understand though? Then I see that all the time. People come into me and I do consulting that you're trying to buy a house, but you only want to pay $10 to the IRS. I'm sorry to tell you, Miss Jennifer, that's not gonna happen. Because um the mortgage companies want to see how much money you're making. right? If you're making $10, you can't go buy a $400,000 house
Right.
or a condo. So you need to know the numbers. So you got to know where you want to go, or maybe you're going to try to buy equipment from somewhere. And maybe one of the banks are going to ask you or finance, well, show me your tax return. So I'm going to tell you part of planning is you got to know what your vision is to know how to play with the bottom line. Do you understand? So depending what your vision is whether you want to put a lot of deductions and pay less to the government or don't put no deductions so you can follow your vision.
Right. So I want to talk about a different piece since we brought this idea up about what it is that you're looking to do with the mortgage companies or whatever it may be. And so, very often, especially in business sales, there is something that is looked at in terms of seller discretionary income, right? So if I am paying myself a salary, if I am covering my car, if I am uh, using office rent or whatever it may be out of my personal home that I am deducting, all of these things can come back into the value of the business in terms of where you go. Is the same to be said in terms of the tax document with the mortgage company? Do you know, or does
Or
that have no connection?
when it comes to mortgages and equipment and stuff like that, they only care about the bottom line. Or let me rephrase that. 98, because remember, even when I do the tax return, the joke is I learned to say, Miss Jennifer, is that you're going to get a mortgage person in Idaho that wants to dot everything 14 times. You understand? So if you put too many car expenses, the underwriter can say, wait a minute, why do you have 29,000 miles on your car? I don't know. I'm just making it up. And so they could give you a hard time. So that's all relative to whoever the underwriter is. Most of the time, they just look at the bottom line and just let it go.
Right. Thank you. So let me go back then for a second. And I know one of the other things that you do help on is getting businesses set up, right? The way
Yes.
that they get set up is so important. The idea of the calendar even is so important when a business gets set up. What can you uh, share with us about that process and how you work?
Okay. So it's all a couple of things. There's a couple of things when I talk about on stages and I help my clients. All right. What I would tell you is you have to figure out what you're going to do first. Most small businesses are are one person peoples. So you should be opening up a sub S company, which means it's like I always call it a baby LLC, but you don't need any partners. So now you can just do a tax return. You don't have any partners. The mistake I see all the time is people do it themselves and they think that because you hear this all over the internet, single member LLCs are good. They're wrong because it shows up on your personal tax return. And in my world, I don't want the IRS seeing anything or as little as possible. So when you do it on a business return, 1120S, or if you're going to have two partners at 1065, the IRS doesn't see what your deductions are. And that's the biggest thing. They don't see it because however it's set up, I mean, I don't know why they did it this way. It comes out in one sheet where you list all your deductions. So the IRS can't go pin you or, say, oh, how many car miles you have. They can't check it. They
Right.
literally, unless you do a physical audit, they can't check whatever your deductions are.
And so that becomes extremely important just in terms of planning, like you said,
Right.
when you're opening
Now
up the
let me
business.
let me take it the other way. So if you're a sole proprietor, which means we just did in our CFO in a box class, we just did a whole we talked about that, as opposed to a sole proprietor, which costs nothing to open up. You can just start doing a business. Everything goes on Schedule C on your personal return. That can get you into trouble because the IRS can zone on anything on your personal return. Somebody in IRS land can push a button to say, I mean, the line I always remember is line 7 on Schedule C is your car, and they could push a button and say, show me your logbook. That's why you don't want to put, as a business owner, you don't want nothing on your personal return other than the profits transferring over.
Right. Thank you. And so it really is, again, super important to have that clear guidance when you are setting up your business and throughout the entire life of the business to make sure that you're maximizing the value and the planning that you're doing in that regard.
Yes.
So thank you. So one other question that we started talking about in the green room was knowing your address. What did you mean by that?
Well, there's a couple of things why you want to know the address. May I ask you what state you live in?
New Jersey.
Poor thing. God bless you. So, so what happens is knowing your address. Most people don't realize that when you got a business, the IRS doesn't care what state you're in. Okay. So let's say you start making, I don't know, you want to buy a house. Let's say you start making $90,000 a year profit. Well, if you open up in states that don't have state income tax like Florida and Nevada, you're not paying state income tax because now you got to pay New Jersey like 15%. So you're paying $9,000. If you make $90,000 in Jersey, you could be paying them, you make 90, you're paying them like $9,000 in tax for your business. As opposed to if your corporate address is in Florida, guess how much state income tax you pay, Miss Jennifer?
0 in Florida.
Thank you.
Let me ask you the one question about that because this is an issue that I'm still trying to figure out. How does the foreign entity nexus make an
First of all,
impact though?
okay, you can go one of two ways. In Florida, I mean, I've never filled out one. So what would happen is in Florida, your corporate address is in Florida. So if you follow my directions and you're working there, somebody says, where's your corporate headquarters? Florida. Okay, end of story. You know, understand my workaround is my corporate address is in Florida, but we just happen to be working in Jersey. So now
Okay.
New Jersey, now, if you try, I had somebody say, if you want to say, oh, boy, we're based in Florida, and now I'm opening up offices, or it's the way it's worded. You understand though? Or you go to
Right.
a really small bank, they're gonna say, show me the foreign entity. And that's like almost in a lot of these states, it's like opening up a corporation in that state. But I'm gonna go take it a little step further. If you're starting to make a lot of money and you really want to be 3 dots, Miss Jennifer, you pay the whatever that money is, but you're not paying corporate tax in that state. If you really want to be super perfect and you're making good money, you understand it? You pay the
Mhm.
foreign entity fee, what it can be, $500, whatever
Okay.
it is. You're still saving on $90,000. You're still saving $8,500 in your pockets.
Right. Okay. Which is really important advice to keep in mind. Thank
Thank you.
you.
But there's the workaround. Just, and especially, see, this is where I've been doing this forever. So what's the name of your corp? Can I ask you what's the name? Okay, let's say your corporation is the Bottom Line Matters Inc. I'm just using your poster there, okay?
Okay.
And in Florida, you there's the same name. Guess what happens, Miss Jennifer? Okay, nobody doesn't know it's the same name, same everything. You got the same bank account, so nobody's ever going to bother you. The only time that could make a difference is if you try to get local grants at town hall. That might say, "Oh, where's your company opened? Where's the corporate address?" That's the
Right.
only time it could come in effect.
So actually, let me flip the question. If I'm a certified small business enterprise and certified women business enterprise,
Right?
how does that impact given the fact that I'm certified here in New Jersey?
But the certification, I mean, I'm not an expert at certification, but 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 it wouldn't matter because your business is based in Florida. See, unless the certification is very New Jersey specific.
Well, yeah, because it's New Jersey that's doing the certification coming from the Division of Revenue.
So that's a different matter. You know what I'm talking about though?
Okay,
That's completely, remember, it's what I said before. Remember, I said if you try to get a grant from your town, that's
right.
a different, I don't know if that makes any sense. That's a different, um, what am I called? That's a different, that's completely different than the average business owner that I work with.
Okay,
But very few people, very few states have business. I'm sorry, you might have federal certification, you know what I'm saying, Miss Jennifer?
right.
But very few states have official state certified.
Okay,
Does that make any sense? I said,
it definitely does. Thank you.
but anything state specific, yes. Unless you're looking for something really state specific, then it doesn't matter.
Thank you. So, Albert, another question that I have is just in terms of overall planning, putting aside the business side, but the personal, because at the end of the day, we're all people. Any
Yes.
word of advice on the personal tax planning that we should be thinking about?
It almost goes back to what I said with the company. It all, if you're a sub S or LLC, it all rolls back to what do you want to do in life? All come rolls back. What's your goal? You understand? You're trying to buy a house, you know, you're trying to do something, then you got to show more of a profit. What's your
Right.
end goal in life? If you're like me, your end goal, you know, I have my house, I do what, you know, that's not my, you know, my concern is figure out how to pay less because I'm not buying no houses. You understand? No, I'm not buying no more commercial real estate, so it doesn't matter. So it goes back to talk to a business coach to figure out what you want to do and then take it forward.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, one other question I have, Albert, and has nothing to do with taxes, and that is the word success. What do you define the word as? And based on that, do you consider yourself to be successful?
You know, it's so funny. I have to go to a funeral after this to somebody I know from the church. Success is not defined by money anymore. It really hit home when a good friend of mine passed away in a car accident in Ohio 2 weeks ago. Success
So
is to me,
sorry.
it's not money anymore. I mean, it really has. Success is for where we come from. How good is your family? How good is your friends? So because money can't buy that, you know, money can't buy that. That's the definite success. Do I need to want to stack up tons of money in my bank account to do crazy things or in case weird stuff happens? The answer is yes. But that's not how you define success. Define success. Did you do what you want to do in life? Have fun. Because you can go bankrupt tomorrow. And if you got a brain, you know, you get the money back probably better than you did the first time. A couple more minutes
Absolutely.
here.
Thank you. Thank
No,
you. And
that's
I love that idea. And you're so right. I mean, to me, I always say that success is not necessarily the money. It's actually my keynote address to success equate to happiness. It's all about is it something that's really right there? Is it making you happy? All of that, as long as you're enjoying what you're doing,
and
sometimes that can
and
be
and
success.
can I take that one step further?
Please.
How many actors? I remember the one, oh my God, I saw it on people when I was coming out of the grocery store the other day. The lady who was on the Food Network and a really crazy lady, you know, with the hair,
Chifan Burrell.
right? She committed suicide.
Yes.
And I thought she had everything in her life. Maybe she didn't have happiness. So what good is all that money that she killed herself? You know? What good's all that money if you have cancer and you're dying?
Right. It's like the famous song, Can't Buy Me Love.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Albert, as we wrap up our conversation, what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts is go out and make a ton of money. You can do whatever you want in life. I mean, money doesn't buy happiness. But money, when you got enough money and you got a great bottom line, when you build a rock bottom, you do whatever you want in life. I just came back from Vegas, seeing the Backstreet Boys with my daughters. I didn't have to ask anybody's permission, or I didn't say, oh, I can't afford. No, we just went because I do well enough. Go out and do so well in life. Don't hurt anybody. Have fun with your family, do whatever you want in life. And just keep track of the bottom line so you can do whatever you want. Obviously, if you're going bankrupt, you can't do that. But keep track of the bottom lines. You do whatever you got to do in life and have fun. I mean, I know we met a couple of weeks ago, and I'm there because I enjoy Kimberly and me a friend. So I like hanging out with Kimberly and those people, and Jen and Jeannie. So that's my definition. Go out and have fun, but make a ton of money so you do whatever you got to do. A great example of what you just said. How many kids you have?
Two.
Two. You got to be doing so well, and my wife and I have been doing this all our lives. You got to be doing so well, Miss Jennifer, that that if you have to stay home to take care of your kids, you don't have to ask anybody's permission. You just do it. I could tell you hundreds of stories that happen in my house. That my wife that happens every day here with my little granddaughter, where my son or my daughter says, oh, I'm running late. Can you watch, Mia? That happened this morning where he had to go to work and she had to go to the doctor's. So grandma went and watched the baby, No, don't worry, because we do whatever we want. And they went on a cruise last week. Give you a great example. And my wife doesn't punch a clock or do anything. I mean, we work hard at what we do. It's like, oh, she didn't have to ask permission. Excuse me, can I stay home and watch my granddaughter on Monday because my kids are on a cruise? What's the answer? The answer is no. That's the definition of success. To do whenever you want, when you want. But you got to have the resources that you don't have to kiss anybody to do what you want. Like that one?
I love that one. Thank you. So, Albert, let me ask you, people have been listening to our conversation for the last 40 some odd minutes, and they want to get more information about you. They want to know how to connect with you. What would be the best way for them to do that?
Well, I got a couple ways. Would you mind if I give all your people a free gift for listening to me?
Please, thank you.
Oh, you can get a free gift. How would you like your clients to know 6 ways to increase your profits almost instantly? They like that? So they can text Taxman to 26786, and you're going to get my free book, or you can go to CoreyBiz.com. They both will lead you to the same place, but I learned a long time ago the texting is a lot quicker to get your gift out faster than telling everybody try to spell how do you spell Corey and how to spell biz. So you text Taxman, TAXMAX to 26786. If you don't know how to text, go to CoreyBiz.com. That leads to the same place.
Thank you. And that was Taxman or Taxmax?
TAXMAN.
Okay, that's what I thought, but when you spelled it originally, it said Taxmax.
That's what some people said on TV when I'm on stages. TAXMAN, one word.
Thank you. So make sure that you do text Taxman. We'll include all that information in the show notes that you can connect. So Albert, thank you so much for being my guest on the show today.
No problem. That's what we're here for. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. And again, the biggest takeaway that I want you to think about as you listen to this episode, and maybe go back again and listen one more time, because you listened the first time to get the basic information. Second time, you might find that nuance that Albert mentioned as we were actually speaking, and find that one nugget that is really going to change exactly what you're doing. For me, I can tell you one of those things that really started percolating a couple more ideas in my own mind is about that foreign entity idea and just changing the corporate location for the business. Does that resonate with you too? Again, if you're in certain states, it may have a huge consequence for you. So depending on exactly what your particular situation is, that is going to be a really big thing. And then the other thing is also just on the bookkeeping side. If you think about, as Albert put it, if it's going to take you 5 hours to go through everything, or you can pay $175 as an example to Albert to make that happen, could be a great way that you can be saving yourself a huge amount of money and headache, and knowing that the information in your books is going to be done the right way. So make sure again that you reach out to Albert. We're going to have all the information in the description below so that you can be connecting and you can make sure that what you are doing is going to be the best way forward for your particular situation. So again, Albert, thank you so much for being my guest. And on that note, this has been another episode of Mojo, the meaning of life and business. And until next time, here is to your success. This has been another episode of Mojo, the meaning of life and business podcast. If you like what you heard, please consider leaving us a review, liking us, or reaching out to us. You can contact us at bgsicoaching.com and let us know what you think. Thanks so much again for listening.